Hi, my name is August, and welcome to Trans Tuesday. Boo, 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 boo. Trans Tuesday is a day, which is Tuesday, in which I talk about transgender goings on. And today, we are actually talking about a bit of a more serious topic. We're talking about the transgender sports bans that are going on around America, really. I live in the States, and if you live over here, or honestly anywhere in the world, you probably feel the discrimination against trans people severely. There are a lot of misconceptions surrounding the transgender sports bans that are going around, and I want to help clear some of those up today. So let's dive in, shall we? First things first. There's a myth that the gender that you are assigned at birth is your gender, period. No. That is not true. That is not true. The doctor who writes on your little, birth certificate, okay, boy or girl, that's not the end all be all. That's not it. There are other indicators out there that determine your gender. For example, what you say. That's a big one. That's the big one. That's the big one. What gender are you? That's a question for you, not a question for the doctor who signed, boy or girl at the bottom of your birth certificate. Fun fact, hormones do not determine gender. Brain matter also does not determine gender. You know what determines gender? What you say you are. Yes, we should take people at face value when they say, hey, I'm a trans woman. Hey, I'm a trans man. Hey, I'm non-binary. I'm gender fluid. I'm agender. We should take people at face value. We should believe them. That would be nice. That would be the end of the conversation, wouldn't it? If we just believed people when they said that they were the gender that they say they were. But that's not how these politicians and these conservatives feel, so we'll go into more. It's so hard for people to transition. It's so hard. And it's so hard to socially make that happen, especially when you're a young person, especially when you're in sports and things that are typically ruled over by cisgender heterosexual people. It's hard to explain, and it's hard to transition socially. And so to divide these people up, and to divide people up and say, we should have different teams. Different teams for different genders. So if you're a transgender woman, you get your own team. I don't know about that. Why can't we just have women and men play with each other? Why can't we just have people play against each other that belong playing against each other? If you're a woman, you can play against women. If you're a man, you can play against men. I mean, we could do we could do what they do in competition shows and American Ninja Warrior, where they all just compete against each other. But no one wants to do that, do they? Did you know that starting in 2001, the NCAA had transgender women playing against other women? It was difficult and there were issues, but not with the transgender women, just with people discriminating against them. That tends to be the usual thing. It's not usually issues with transgender women. It's usually issues with people's perceptions of them. Just like the bathroom issue. We were never really worried about the trans women. We were worried about cis men pretending to be trans women, which is really a problem with men, cis men, not a problem with trans women. There's a big difference. That's like saying, I stubbed my toe one time, you own a table, it's your fault. What? You may or may not have access to an apparatus that I have seen used in a negative light. I'm gonna blame all of my problems on you. That's what blaming all these things on trans women seems like. These trans women, they have nothing to do with these issues. They're not going into bathrooms and terrorizing cis women. It's the cis men who are doing these things. You gotta take a look at who's actually causing these problems. Hello. There is a myth going around that having transgender women in sports with cisgender women will be a danger to the cisgender women and will sort of cheapen the sport somehow. That's discriminatory. Just gonna put that out there. That you believe that just because trans women are participating in a sport with cis women, that it's going to be cheapened, that the value is going to go down. I'm just gonna point that out for you. That's discrimination. Just saying. But should we go into this argument, I would say that eventually, right, how are you going to be able to tell? Right? So hypothetically, let's say I'm a transgender woman, I'm trying to enter sports at the college level. Do I have to out myself then? Do I have to say, hey, I want to let you know I'm trans? What if you wouldn't have been able to know otherwise? Isn't that an invasion of my privacy that you need to know that I'm transgender to put me in sports? What does that have to do with sports? What does that have to do with sports at all? Nothing. But okay, let's go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and say, hey, I'm transgender, I'm playing in this sport, you may want to know. Okay, now what they're doing is they're tracking people's hormone levels. They're tracking people's testosterone levels as it applies to sports. And they're making sure 4 weeks in advance that those levels are within an appropriate range for the sport. Let me make this clear. Okay, you start coming for these women, eventually you're going to start coming for all women. You're going to start coming for women who seem masculine. You're going to start coming for women who are intersex. You're going to start coming for people who are intersex. You're going to start coming for people who are non-binary. You're going to start coming for all sorts of people. I mean, what if a woman... there have already been women affected by these laws, by these problems, by these judgments. There have already been women affected by these rules in sports who are cis women, affected by rules made for trans women, discriminatory rules for trans women. Cis women are affected. I mean, wild, right? Politicians love leaning into the idea of protecting women. Oh, we gotta protect women from those trans women. We gotta protect our cis women from those trans women. These trans women are not a danger to you. Okay? A little bit more testosterone is not gonna make them make or break a score. Okay? Pink Manta Ray on Instagram, who is Skylar Byler, he does an amazing sort of post about why specific Olympic athletes are not the threat that they seem to be, and he does an amazing comparison with their scores. Banning transgender women from these sports causes unnecessary division. You don't need this division. It's not going to make or break scores. It's not going to make or break someone's career. Okay? I don't understand the fear of putting transgender women in sports. That to me seems like a petty fear. That to me seems like a dated old-fashioned way of thinking. But what is America, huh? Okay. And I think the overall fear is that transgender women will have an unfair advantage. Unfair advantage and transgender women do not belong in the same sentence. Okay? Transgender women do not have any fair advantages at all in this society. Not at all. The way that our society punishes people who are perceived as young men who turn into women, who've always been women this entire time, but who turn into women, the way that our society punishes these people is brutal and uncalled for. And it needs to stop now. These laws, these bans, you're not banning, I mean, listen, it's not about the sports. It's about keeping transgender women out of things. It's because these politicians, these lawyers, these whoever they are, they don't see trans women as women. They see trans women as men, hiding. And whatever projections you are putting onto transgender women, of caricatures, of stereotypes, that all speaks to your judgment of your cis men in your life. Because you see transgender women as cis men pretending, playing dress up. That says a lot about how you perceive cisgender men. Keep those judgments to yourself. Put those elsewhere. Okay? Put those back onto the source where they belong. Hold these men accountable. Men, not trans women who do not need your BS in this year of our Lord 2022, in Women's History Month, okay? International Women's Month. It's not necessary. If you're a trans woman and you're in sports, or you're trans and you're watching this, I want you to know that you're not alone. If you're outraged, it is all right to feel outraged. You know the saying, if you're not upset, you're not paying attention. We have our eyes open. We are paying attention. And we will not stand for this kind of behavior. We will not stand for this kind of treatment as a community. We are small, but we are united. We will rise above this. We will do better for ourselves and for our society. And we will fight against this, as we always have. I hope you're doing well. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, folks. Bye.